Recording in progress.
Good afternoon, everyone. Magandang hapon sa bawat isa. I am Eileen and Francisco, and we are now on our last session of the webinar created thanks to the partnership of the Philippine Women's University and the School of Food Science and Technology. Once again, we present to you our webinar entitled Food Safety and Quality, Way Forward for Economic Recovery, our last but not the least.
Good afternoon, partner. So yes, indeed, there is a lot to expect in this session, So since we are now on our last session, let us see if buhay pa sila. Can we ask everyone to click a reaction button on what they feel about this afternoon?
Good. Hopefully energized kayong lahat. Please be reminded for our house rules. First, for our Zoom users, please rename yourselves and keep your audio muted. Further, we would like to inform everyone that if you have questions, write them on the chat box. The question and answer or open forum session will be pushed back or be held after all the speakers presents their topic. The evaluation for today will be one together with the evaluation for the early this morning. So isa lang po ang magiging evaluation natin sa buong maghapon. Please also remember that we are live streamed via Facebook and YouTube channels of the Philippine Women's University.
We will be sending link for evaluation before the seminar ends. Please make sure to fill them up within 1.5 hours. So after submitting the evaluation, your certificate will be forwarded to you via email. And reminding everyone that failure to submit within the allowable time means no issuance of this certificate. Kaya mag-evaluate po tayo. So today, partner, we have 2 more exciting topics prepared for us.
Tama, nakabili ka na ba ng pagkain na pinagsisihan mo? Scolded and may have been called by HR for sourcing questionable suppliers. Well, today is your lucky day.
Today, we will hear from a veteran food quality and safety practitioners in which he will be discussing the topic, be careful about the food you choose, safe and quality.
Indeed, Today, our speaker is a graduate from the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, with a degree in chemical engineering, experience as management system consultant for food and quality, currently environmental and occupational safety, environmental health and safety officer of the Sungin Philippines Corporation.
Without further ado, let us all welcome Mr. Benedict Paul Corpus.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Ai and Ma'am Angelica. A food safe and quality afternoon to everyone. Welcome to the uh, second to the last session for this afternoon. Now, please lend me your ears and your eyes as well, as I am to discuss the topic assigned to me entitled, Be Careful About the Food You Choose, Safe and Quality. The objective of this session is to create an awareness on choosing your food. And at the end of this session, I hope that I can appeal to your hearts today and convince you to start choosing wisely the food you will eat, always considering quality and safety. Moving forward, ancient Roman poet, Virgil said, the greatest wealth is health. And I believe that's so. Why? Without good health, we have decreased vitality. And it means that we have this decreased energy, which will always result to lost opportunities. By lost opportunities, we mean that we have lost opportunities for work, for play, and even things with our families. That's why with bad health, parts of our lives are suffering. As Filipinos, we attribute good health with food. As our grandmothers or parents have said before, eat more so you will grow more and be healthy. Or as the milk product advertises, busog, lusog. Since we attribute good health to food, Filipinos love eating. The reason why we love eating, it's because we often socialize with our guests with food. Salo-salo. We want our guests to share their lives through food. Food is our way to communicate our love, our appreciation, or even apology. And in every Filipino family, meal sharing is a central aspect. The reason why our parents would always call us to come forward sa ating mga hapagkainan at sabay-sabay tayong kumakain. Food is also our cultural expression. The reason why our favorite adobo has different version from different regions. And lastly, food gives us a sense of home. Kaya kahit saan po tayo pumunta, ang mga pagkain Pilipino, ramdam na ramdam mo na nasa Pilipinas ka kapag naaamoy mo o natitikman mo ang pagkain Pinoy. So let's move to the next video. On this clip, you will see different types of food we normally eat. May isaw, may palamig, we have banana cue, kwek-kwek, tilapia, fried rice, palabok at spaghetti, Chinese food, saukem, biscuits and other snacks like pancit canton, meatballs, ikat, dried fish, lugaw, palabok, chicken bread. Sipon. Let's ask ourselves now, are we careful about the food we eat? Ano kaya mga kinain yung lunch kanina? And let's see what our National Nutrition Council is telling us. Yan. Our National Nutrition Council had given us 10 commandments. With these 10 commandments, I will focus on 2. That is, on the 6 commandments, kung tiyaking malinis at ligtas ang ating pagkain at tubig. And the 8 commandments is hinay-hinay sa maalat, mamantika at matatamis. All the so-called deadly M's, the deadly 3 M's, maalat, mamantika at matatamis. Let us watch the next videos.
Sa ilalim ng Kapulong Bridge sa Tondo, Maynila, may mga pagawaan ng pambalot ng longganisa o longganisa casing na ang karaniwang gamit ay bituka ng baboy. Sinadya ang lugar kanina ng Manila Veterinary Inspection Bureau. May tatanggap kasi silang impormasyon na marumi ang paggawa rito ng mga longganisa casing. Sa maruming tubig estero raw na ito, hinuhugasan ang karaniwan ay bulok ng bituka ng baboy na ginagamit. Hinihiwalay raw ang malaplastik na balat ng bituka, saka patutuyuin sa ilalim ng tulay.
Yung pa lang, ang dami ng pwedeng mga makuhang sakit doon, mga virus, whatever, bacteria, na nandun mismo sa ilog. Pangalawa, yung condition ng mga bahay nila, nandun na rin sila dumudumi and everything, it will adapt to the unsanitary condition doon sa ng mga longganisa casings na ginagawa nila.
Alright. Please take note of what the engineer have said. Unsanitary conditions. Sino po sa atin dito ang mahilig sa longganisa? Long, silog, at kung ano-ano pa. Breakfast is longganisa. Next video, please.
Food is life din ba ang motto nyo? Hinay-hinay lang daw dahil lahat ng sobra ay masama. Ayon nga sa pag-aaral ng Department of Science and Technology, dumarami ang mga Pilipinong overweight at obese. May unang balita, si Nico Wahe.
Sa datos ng DOST-FNRI mula 1993 hanggang 2019, parami na ng parami ang mga Pilipinong edad 20 to 59 years old ang overweight at obese. Wala pang datos ang 2020 hanggang 2022 kung saan mayroong pandemya at marami ang nasa bahay lang at walang physical activity. Ayon sa Philippine Association for the Study of Overweight and Obesity, ang pag-adapt sa Western lifestyle ang isa sa dahilan kung bakit dumarami ang bumibigat sa bansa at sa buong Asya.
Kumakain na tayo ng mga ready-to-cook meals, naging mas westernized yung lifestyle natin, nanonood ng TV, nakaupo lang, mas marami na tayo yung mga pagkain na mas marami ang fat content.
May tuturing na raw na sakit ang obesity.
Dati, isa lamang itong risk factor to develop other diseases. Subalit, batay sa mga bagong pag-aaral, ang obesity mismo ay isang uri na ng sakit.
Yan. According to the Philippine Association for the Study of Overweight and Obesity, obesity is already considered as a sickness. Sabi kanina nung reporter, food is life. And I believe a lot of Filipinos are posting that as their hashtag. We love food. Kaya kanina, when I introduced this topic, I said that Filipinos love eating because Filipinos really love to eat. But let us check what our law is telling us with regards to the food that we eat. Yan. The Philippine Constitution 1987 stated in Section 15 that the state shall protect and promote the right to health of the people and instill health and consciousness among them. PD 856 or the Code of Sanitation stated the health of the people being of paramount importance, all efforts of the public services should be directed towards protection and promotion of health. And lastly, the Food Safety Act of 2013, RA 10611, Section 3.A states that the state shall adopt the following specific objectives: protect the public from food and waterborne illnesses and unsanitary, unwholesome, misbranded, and adulterated foods. With these two videos we watch and the statement nitong patungkol sa mga laws with regards to health natin, dagdagan pa natin ng isa coming from the Universal Healthcare Act. It states in Chapter 1, Section 2, that the state shall adopt an integrated and comprehensive approach to ensure that all Filipinos are health literate, provided with healthy living conditions and protected from hazards and risks that could affect their health. Please take note of the hazards and risk. Kanina, do sa unang video, we've seen longganisa casings na winawash under the bridge. Unsanitary ang condition sa paggawa ng longganisa casing. There are a lot of risk with that. And if you would consume that, definitely there will be bacteria or pathogens that will come inside our bodies. With such beautiful laws, as I stated a while ago, crafted by our lawmakers, we need to realize what we are currently facing right now. And we have two threats that we are currently facing right now. First is the food and water-borne diseases or illnesses. And second, overweight and obesity. Let's move to the first threat. Food and waterborne diseases. 1.8 million people die each year due to diarrheal diseases attributed to contaminated food and water. These food and waterborne diseases is a significant health issues not only for countries like us, yung mga developing countries, but also in developed countries. And these food and waterborne diseases remains as one of the 10 causes of morbidity and mortality in the Philippines. Moving forward, these food and waterborne diseases are caused by infectious organisms like viruses, bacteria, and parasites or pathogens. And the transmission is usually from person to person through soiled hands or through food and water contaminated by human waste or feces. Our RITM, Research Institute for Tropical Medicine, and our DOH is monitoring diseases such as typhoid, paratyphoid fever, acute bloody diarrhea, cholera, and viral hepatitis. Moving forward to the next slide, according to the World Health Organization's 5 Keys to Safer Food Manual, there are more than 200 known diseases that are transmitted through food and water. Imagine diseases na natatransfer natin whenever we eat our food or drink whatever drinks that we want to intake. 200 known diseases, and that is from 2006. Today is 2022. Gano'n na po kaya karami? Baka nadagdagan pa po ito. Looking at the contaminated water, microbiologically contaminated drinking water can transmit diseases such as diarrhea, cholera, dysentery, typhoid, and polio, and is estimated to cause 485,000 diarrheal deaths each year according to the World Health Organization. So we need to be very careful in drinking or choosing the drinking water that we intake. Next. Let us look at the status of the Philippines in terms of drinking water. In the urban population of the Philippines, we have 61.8% to have an access to safely managed drinking water. While on the rural population, that is yung mga nasa provinces natin and other regions, they only have 34.54% access to safely managed drinking water. And in 2015, there is only 46.64% whole population of the Philippines that has access to basic or improved water sources. Tignan natin on 2020, it just increased ng wala pa nga pong 1%. Only 47.46% ang mga Pilipinos who have access to basic or improved water sources. 5 years, but wala pa pong 1% ang in-increase natin when it comes to our population having an access to basic or improved water sources. Looking at the next slide, 14 Filipinos die every day in the past 10 years due to waterborne diseases. And later on, you'll discover that there are more. 53,066 Filipinos died due to waterborne diseases such as typhoid and paratyphoid fever between 2010 and 2019. And 70% of that death, or 37,622 deaths of the Filipinos, were caused by bloody diarrhea. What are the common sources of these food and waterborne diseases? First is unsafe sources of drinking water. We need to know, saan ba nanggagaling yung mga iniinom nating tubig? Are we really sure that the drinking water or yung purified water na dinideliver sa ating mga tahanan, sa ating mga offices, are really safe? Do we check them? Do we ask for laboratory tests from them that they are really safe? Next, improper disposal of human waste. Have you seen places wherein you'll just see people pooping on the rivers? They wash their bodies at the rivers and they poop in that river. Imagine what kind of diseases they have. Next, unhygienic practices like spitting anywhere, blowing, or picking the nose. When COVID-19 came, I thought this practice or this unhygienic practice of spitting anywhere, blowing and picking of nose will be minimized. Pero as the COVID-19 pandemic subsides, mukhang bumabalik na naman po ang mga Pilipinos when it comes to these unhygienic practices. And lastly, last common source of food and waterborne diseases is the unsafe food handling and preparation practices. Kahapon, somebody asked, paano ma-check yung mga street foods natin? Anong narinig nating sagot sa ating mga kasama kahapon? We need to be aware. We need to check, tama nga ba talaga ang food preparation nila? At kung mali ang nakikita nating food preparation nila, then do not buy. Bakit? Our health is at stake. Looking at this figure, you will see that the factors that increases the occurrence of food and waterborne diseases are rainy season, due to flooding, nasasama po yung yung flood waters doon sa drinking water natin normally, nasisip-sip whatsoever. Next, poor hygiene and sanitation, which is connected to the next factor, which is poverty level. Kaya nga, the increasing poverty level, there is also an increasing occurrence of food and waterborne diseases. Let us take a look on the next video. Sino po sa atin dito
Pinuntahan
ang
ng mga
mahilig
tauhan
sa
ng Quezon
taho?
City Task Force Disiplina at ng mga pulis ang paggawaang ito ng taho sa may Commonwealth Avenue, Quezon City kagabi matapos makatanggap ng reklamo mula sa mga concerned citizen kaugnay sa napakaitim daw na usok na lumalabas mula rito. Nagulat ang mga taga-task force sa tumambad sa kanila sa loob. Ang mga balde at lalagyan ng taho nanlilimahid. Ang iba pang mga gamit puno ng kalawang. Yung sinasalukan ng tubig na panluto ng taho nangingitim na rin. Pati panlinis ng tiles kuminsay nasasawsaw pa raw sa tubig na panluto. May mga gumagapang pang-ipis.
Hindi talaga po pwede yung kalinisan, kulang. Yung kaayusan dun sa loob ng tahuan, kulang din po yung hindi po makita talagang po pwedeng pumasa. At talaga pong masasabi po natin na marumi yung kanilang facility.
Ayon sa Task Force Disiplina, pinasara na raw nila ang paggawaan ng taho ilang gabi nang nakalilipas. Pero palihim pa rin daw itong nag-operate.
Kaya namin inano dahil isa siyang lutuan. Pagkain siya at kailangan talaga siyang malinis dapat.
Just what the man said, pagkain siya, ito ay lutuan, dapat ito ay maninis. In the previous slide, we said that factors that food and waterborne diseases occur is because of unhygienic practices and poor sanitation. So be careful whenever we eat our taho. Masarap ang taho, pero are we really sure that the taho that we are eating is safe? We move forward now for the recent cases reported around our country. First case is about the E. coli laced water chased as cause of diarrhea outbreak in Davao del Norte. In Santo Tomas, Davao del Norte, what happened was the water system and water stocks of refilling stations at Barangay Tulalian were contaminated by E. coli. And what they believed was the reason behind this contamination was the leaking pipes. And we all know kapag we have these leaking pipes, all contamination may come in. And as a result, there are 471 affected by this E. coli and 3 have died. The next is the unhygienic street food. Sabi dito po sa headline, Isaw Kwek-Kwek blamed for diarrhea outbreak in Davao City that killed 6. This happened in Toril, Davao City, wherein 217 persons were affected and 6 were killed from July 15 to 28. And by the rectal examination or rectal swabs, the outbreak was caused by foodborne microorganisms with Vibrio cholera as the pathogen of concern. What they have eaten, isaw, kwek-kwek, and the tapioca drink. In Iloilo, there was a reported 90 cases and 4 deaths from July 26 to August 28 coming from 6 barangays in Iloilo City. What was the reason? Acute gastroenteritis was the reported case. And in September 11, as of September 11, there are a total of 522 cases of acute gastroenteritis. What did the Iloilo City government did? There are 358 water refilling stations that was inspected and 99% were found to be non-compliant. So 38 have been shut down by the city government, while 34 voluntarily ceased their operation. See what will happen if our drinking water, the food that we take, are not safe. In the Philippine Statistics Authority's data, gastroenteritis is ranking 30 this year from their preliminary report, January to May 2022. Last year's report, the rank of gastroenteritis was 33. So it increased this year. So nakakabahala po because kung 14 Filipinos are being killed of this daily by this food and waterborne diseases, and there is an increased rank nitong gastroenteritis, there will be more Filipinos dying each day if these food and waterborne diseases are not stopped. Let us watch the next video.
In the past months, the health department has been taking water samples in eastern Visayas areas with clustering of diarrhea cases. They found E. coli and coliform in the majority of drinking water sources in Calbayog and Catbalogan cities. This means the water is contaminated with human feces. From September 4 to October 1, DOH Eastern Visayas reported a total of 41 suspected cholera cases from Catbalogan City, Calbayog City, and General MacArthur, Eastern Samar.
Presentation pa lang nila is diarrhea plus other constitutional signs and symptoms. Pwede magsuka, cholera ito, very rapid ang dehydration. Saka rice watery stools.
Some residents were positive for cholera in the rapid test, but officials are still waiting for confirmatory laboratory test results. Health officials say the rainy season brought floods which affected water systems. Many families also still have no toilet, leaving them more vulnerable to contaminating water sources.
Tendency ng water from the CR, diba, nag-overflow, pupunta doon sa water source nila. Ang water source nila ay hindi treated. Wala tayong mga faucet doon. So, ang iba, spring water or deep wells, din nagpa-practice din sila ng fortification.
She says the diarrhea cases now are under control. As of September 24, the Health Department has recorded over 3,700 cholera cases nationwide. Majority are from Eastern Visayas, Davao Region, and Caraga. It's nearly a threefold increase from the previous year. 48 new cases were added in the latest reporting week. Most affected are children aged 5 to 9 years. 33 have already died since January.
May mga namamatay dahil kasi ang cholera kapag hindi natin naagapan, nagkakaroon ng severe dehydration. Lalo na kung immunocompromised, lalo na yung mga bata less than 5 years old, o di kaya kapag tinamaan ng matanda ng cholera, ito ay mas mataas ang risk nila or probability of dying.
All right. Due to the flooding caused by the rainy season and the lack of toilets at this region, specifically Region 8, this has resulted to an outbreak of cholera. And what was said, the threefold increase, this has increased with 282%. Right? Let us see.
All right. We would like to remind everyone that the evaluation for the seminar will be given before we end the webinar. So please stay tuned. For everyone, be reminded that we would like to ask you to register. Mag-register po tayo. May mga ilan sa mga nanalo ng GCash na hindi po namin matrace. So please be reminded to register. So yun po, paalala. And we should learn. Nagigilty na ba kayo? Nandidiri na ba kayo? O natataka? O nagugutom sa mga pinakita ni Sir Benedict, Ma'am Angel?
So, ma'am, alam mo, kanina, during the session, no, I've learned, no, during that 1/4 session, parang, no, patikim na session, choosing what we eat is simple but difficult, no, Ma'am Eileen. And I, for once in my life, bought an item that is dented or mali pala, ma'am, without proper knowledge and the food safety. It is difficult to comprehend, right, Ma'am Eileen?
Totoo, ma'am. Napakahirap talaga nito kasi hindi tayo masyadong aware kung ano yung mga dapat talaga pala nating gawin. Alam mo, minsan, I actually nakabili ako ng lata. Alam niyo po yung sa lata na bawal palang bumili ng naka-dented, no? Ganun din ang nangyari sa akin. And sometimes, yung mga fruits and vegetables na hindi natin napapansin na hindi pala okay, nakakabili tayo. Kaya dapat patuloy tayong makinig sa binabahagi o sinishare ni Sir Benedict. We continue to listen about this topic from the 10 commandments, from 2 of the 10 commandments that Sir Benedict is sharing with us.
Kaya nga, Ma'am Eileen, we encourage everyone to stay tuned so we can learn more of this session. So, Sir Benedict, is the connection okay now?
Yes, ma'am. So going back to what I was discussing a while ago, in Region 8, there was a cholera outbreak due to feces contaminated water, and this had been resulted from flooding due to the rainy season and as well as lack of toilets. And this was also mentioned last October 17 in a public briefing of DOH that there are 3,729 cases of cholera just this year the threefold increase is 282% higher than last year. So kung kanina, the value that I've shown you is rank 30. Baka next year, nasa rank 25. So nakakabahala. And imagine, ang affected ay mga immunocompromised. Unfortunately, we Filipinos have this mindset na kaya ng tiyan natin yan. Matigas ang tiyan natin. Kahit ano, kaya natin kainin. Unfortunately, kapag tinamaan ka ng mga sakit na ito, you'll just choose whether you survive or you will be one of the 14 Filipinos dying daily due to these food and waterborne diseases. Let's move to the next slide. Yan. Let us know what our government is doing to fight against the food and waterborne diseases. Last September 25, 2019, our Research Institute for Tropical Medicine Director Dr. Celia Carlos emphasized that there is a need to promote the surveillance of the food and waterborne diseases. Bakit? It's because it has remained to be one of the leading mortality or morbidity causes of the country. And as we have seen a while ago, up to this date, we cannot stop the outbreaks that are occurring, or we cannot contain those outbreaks. Next, there is a so-called Food and Waterborne Diseases Strategic Plan for 2019 to 2023. In this strategic plan, dito in-express nila yung mga dapat natin gawin o dapat gawin ng national government and the LGUs para sugpuin yung food and waterborne diseases sa ating bansa. And based on this strategic plan, I get some of the lapses or the gaps na kailangan nilang i-address. And these are, first, low priority is given by local leadership to the prevention and control of the food and waterborne diseases. By low priority, we mean, una, they have the lack of funds. Or we are speaking of the local government units. They have lack of funds or small fund allocations, or they are just dependent on the Department of Agriculture, Department of Health for technical assistance and logistics. Second, lack of proper training and turnover of staff. Maraming nag-aalisan sa gobyerno. Maraming nagta-transfer sa private. Now, when those trained people comes out and new people comes in, walang proper turnover, walang proper training. And based on that strategic plan, newly hired sanitation inspectors lack necessary formal training. The reason why yung inspections hindi nagiging effective. And for example, in Tanay Rizal, for 100,000 population, there is only one safe sanitary inspector. Kulang po tayo sa sanitary inspectors. Number 3, the promotion is impalpable. Hindi nararamdaman yung promotion when it comes to personal hygiene and health sanitation practices. When I was doing this presentation, I always remember yung Department of Health Secretary before na ang lagi niya sinasabi, let's do it, let's do it, let's do it. May effect yung kanyang promotion. But now, it seems like the promotion when it comes to personal hygiene and health, hindi po yata nararamdaman. We have a lot of means to share or promote personal hygiene and health sanitation. However, it seems na walang dating sa population natin ngayon o sa generation natin ngayon. Next slide, please. Number 4, compliance and adherence to national law and policies is low. Mahina when it comes to compliance sa ating mga batas. Do we really check every stores, food business operators complying? Lahat po ba nag-check? Lahat ba nagko-comply? The reason why hindi lahat nagko-comply is because of number 5. Number 5, enforcement of sanctions and penalties by concerned authorities is weak. I always have this question. Was there a food business operator na nakulong, jailed, due to sanctions on food safety law? Lastly, our food and waterborne disease cases are underreported. Hindi tayo mismo, consumers, hindi rin tayo nagre-report. We just go to the hospitals. After going to the hospitals are not reporting it to the DOH. Tayo, hindi rin natin nire-report. So when it comes to analyzing the risk of these food and waterborne diseases, the data ay kulang. Kasi ang mindset, lalong-lalo ng mga Pilipino when it comes to diarrhea is, kaya ko yan. Iinom lang ako ng Diatabs. The next day, I am okay. Kasi nga, matigas daw ang tiyan ng mga Pilipino. But that mindset, I tell you, is very wrong. Let us watch the next video. This is the sad life of our kababayan, poor kababayans. They are eating pagpag.
Itong trabaho ko, mga 5 buwan na po. Pumunta ako tanghali mga alas 12. Hanggang ngayon, nandito ako. Sa isang linggo po, pag nakapagpakilo po ang bossing ko, bigyan ako ng 300. Okay na rin po, kahit pa paano nakaka-resolve sa mga pangangailangan ko sa pagkain, panggasto sa bahay, makabili man lang ng bigas, ulam. Kano po? 25 po. 25.
Our poor kababayans have no choice when it comes to food. With poverty level getting high, it seems that the choice of food has become lower. A lot of our kababayans in the poorest section of our country are eating this type of food. Leftover food thrown into the garbage, cold pagpag. They will just cook it for another dish so that their stomachs will be full. But if you would check, do they really have the nutrition that they need when it comes to the food that they eat? Are those pagpag really safe? Why is our country slow to defeat food and waterborne diseases? First, that is due to poverty. And as we have seen in the last video, a lot of our poor kababayans has a little choice when it comes to the choice of buying their food. Second, due to the lack of government's focus on the impacts of the food and waterborne diseases. I was talking about the lack of inspectors a while ago. I was talking about the lack of funding a while ago. But I am not telling that all of the LGUs are doing like that. But the focus when it comes to battling these food and waterborne diseases is not enough. And we also see that this lack of government focus, we have this lack of sanitation. Our PD 856 or Code of Sanitation is telling us that our government or the state should give sanitation, should provide health and sanitation. And 47% of Filipinos have only have an access to good, clean, or good drinking water. What about the rest of the population? The reason why food and waterborne diseases are not defeated, it's because we have lack of access to clean water. And third, it is because we Filipinos have low awareness on food safety and quality. Mas gusto natin yung masarap. Kaya nga may kasabihan na masarap ay bawal. So these things, we are slowing down when it comes to fighting food and waterborne diseases. Let us take a look of what World Health Organization is sharing to us. 5 years into the race to the 2030 targets. For safe drinking water in 2020, only 1 out of 4 people lack safely managed water. And from their data in 2020, 120 million people gained access to safe drinking water at home. But by 2030, with the rate that is being done among countries, only 1.6 billion people or 1.6 billion people will still lack safe drinking water at home. Marami pa rin pong hindi makaka-access sa safe drinking water. And by lack of access to safe drinking water, food and waterborne diseases will occur. In 2020, there are 3.6 billion people that has lack of safely managed sanitation services. They do not have proper CRs, comfort rooms. In 2020, according to World Health Organization, 115 million people gained access to safe sanitation services at home. But by 2030, with the rate that is happening with different countries, 2.8 billion people will still lack of safe sanitation at home. Meaning, hindi pa rin bumaba yung mga tao na may access sa safe sanitation. Next, 2020, according to the World Health Organization, 2.3 billion people lack of basic hygiene services, including soap and water at home. Between 2015 and 2020, 547 million gained access to basic hygiene services at home. But by 2030, since we are slowing down, 1.9 billion people will still lack the basic hygiene services at home. Let's move on to the next threat. The next threat is overweight and obesity. Obesity is the abnormal or excessive fat accumulation that presents a risk to our health. And actually, We defined a while ago, according to that association, that obesity and overweight is already a sickness or a disease. Across the globe, there are 800 million individuals that are obese or overweight. And I belong, unfortunately, to that 800 million individuals. For Filipinos, we have 27 million Filipinos who are overweight or obese. And I also belong to that 27 million Filipinos. What about you guys, those who are watching at YouTube and Facebook, and our attendees from Zoom? Do you belong to these 27 million Filipinos? I hope you are not. I hope you do not belong to these 27 million Filipinos who are overweight. Let us check the data for the obesity among the Filipino adults. In 1998, there is 20.2% obese Filipino adults. But in 2019, there is an increase of 16% Filipino adults that are obese. And among the adolescents, from 2003, there is almost a threefold increase in 2018. From 4.9%, it increased to 11.6%. And according to our DOST FNRI, if we cannot battle this overweight and obesity, there will be 30% more Filipino adolescents that will be overweight by 2030. Let's move to the next slide. According to UNICEF, children with unhealthy diets who take little exercise are increasingly prone to depression, underperforming at school and learning, and are at greater risk of debilitating diseases like diabetes later in life. COVID-19 poses an additional threat to children with obesity. Why? This COVID-19 caged us. What I mean by cage, we cannot go out of our homes. We cannot do the normal things that we were doing before. We cannot play outside. We cannot do physical activities outside. And according to the World Health Organization, 39 million people under the age of 5 are overweight or obese in 2020. That is very alarming. Why? When you are obese or overweight, the risk of having hypertension, the risk of having diabetes and other heart problems is there. We have an increased risk because of overweight and obesity. Let us take a look at the data by the Philippine Statistics Authority. Heart diseases or ischemic heart diseases is reported to be the top 1 cause of death among Filipinos. What do you mean by ischemic heart disease? These are heart ailments caused by narrow heart arteries or simply heart attack. A while ago, I've said that if you are obese or overweight, you have a higher risk for heart problems. And if you are obese, then what's next? We may have a heart attack. Also ranking on the top 4 and 5 is diabetes and hypertensive diseases, which are also caused by poor and unhealthy diet. Let us take a look of what our government is doing against overweight and obesity. The National Nutrition Council has been coordinating with the Philippine Plan of Action for Nutrition or PPAN, and they are discussing about overweight and obesity prevention and management program for the country. For the local governments, we have an example, Quezon City. They have programs that set nutrition criteria for the food procured and served in the city. While Iloilo City promoted bike lanes. They have this bike lane so that physical activities will be enhanced. Another thing that our government has done is putting an excise tax on sugar-sweetened beverages. So what they did is under the train law, ay tinaasan po nila yung tax do sa sugar-sweetened beverages so that our kababayans will minimize the consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages. Why are we slow to defeat overweight and obesity? The first thing, the first reason, it's because due to the increased patronage of ready-to-eat meals and ready-to-cook meals, which are particularly high in sugar and fat contents. And these are available everywhere. Pindot-pindot na lang ngayon, kaya natin i-order, kainin yan at our doorstep. Next, due to the adoption of sedentary way of living. Dati, we need to go outside to get our food. Now, tulad nung nabanggit ko po kanina, it's just a cell phone away. We can order everything we want through our cell phone. And normally, because of the COVID-19, we had this habit of not going outside of our homes. We will just be sitting on our couches, watching our TVs or any movies, then eating. So we are now adopting a sedentary way of living, which according to the one being interviewed a while ago in one of my videos, is that we are adapting to the Western style of living, a sedentary way of living, or in short, couch potatoes. And lastly, which is common with the food and waterborne diseases, is we have a low awareness on food safety and quality. I would like to suggest that food and waterborne illnesses and overweight and obesity are just closer to our homes. Hindi gobyerno ang sagot when it comes to fighting food and waterborne illnesses, overweight and obesity. We have a thing to do. These are closer to our homes. By being close to our homes, let's check our fridge. Ano po bang laman ng ating mga refrigerators? Does it contain healthy food, healthy, nutritious food, safe food? And by meaning safe, do we clean our fridges? Do we check the linings of our refrigerators? Yung rubber linings, baka naman binabahayan na yan ng mga cockroaches, which if these cockroaches touch our food, it will be unsafe. Another, do we clean our kitchen? Do we practice the right sanitation when it comes to preparation of our food at home? What do we give our children at home? Do we give them ready-to-eat baon every day? So we need to check. We need to analyze what's inside our homes so that we can battle or fight against food and waterborne illnesses, overweight and obesity. So with that, we need to ask ourselves, why should we care about the food we eat? Bakit nga ba we need to care about the food we eat? We have two reasons. First reason is that food is essential for our health. Essential to our health. Bakit? It is essential for our survival. It gives us energy, it gives us nutrients that our bodies need. Also, food affects our mood and productivity. Food should give us productivity. Let us watch the next video.
Food and mood. 8 ways to get you thinking about how your food affects your mood. 1. Eat regularly. If your blood sugar drops, it can make you feel tired, irritable, or depressed. Eating regularly will keep your sugar levels steady. Try food that releases energy slowly, like food high in protein, such as nuts and seeds, oats and whole grains. 2. Make sure you're getting the right fats. Your brain needs fatty oils, such as omega-3 and 6, to keep it working well. So rather than avoiding all fats, it's important to eat the right ones. Try eating food high in the good fats, like oily fish, chicken, nuts like walnuts and almonds, olive and sunflower oils, sunflower or pumpkin seeds, avocados, or milk, yogurt, cheese, and eggs. 3. Increase your protein. Protein has amino acids in it. These make up the chemicals your brain needs to regulate your thoughts and feelings. It also helps control your blood sugar levels. So try eating protein-rich foods, lean meat, fish, eggs, cheese, legumes like peas, beans and lentils, nuts and seeds. 4. Drink more. If you're not hydrated enough, you might find it difficult to concentrate or think clearly. You might also start to feel constipated, which puts no one in a good mood. Water is great, but why not try drinking herbal or green tea or diluted fruit juice? 5. Eat a rainbow of fruit and vegetables. Vegetables and fruit contain a lot of the minerals, vitamins and fibre we need to keep us physically and mentally healthy. Eating a variety of different colours every day means you'll get a good range of nutrients. 6. Cut down on the caffeine. Having too much caffeine can make you feel anxious and depressed, disturb your sleep, especially if you're having it last thing at night, or give you withdrawal symptoms when you stop suddenly. Caffeine is in things like coffee, tea, chocolate, cola, and energy drinks. You might feel better if you stop drinking caffeine completely, but just cutting down will help too. 7. Pay attention to your gut. Your gut and your brain use similar chemicals. So, keeping your gut healthy can help to keep your brain healthy too. Healthy gut foods include fibre-rich foods like fruits, vegetables and whole grains, and live yogurts which contain probiotics. Remember that it might take time for your gut to get used to a new eating pattern, so make changes slowly. 8. Are you intolerant? Sometimes people have food intolerances, which can affect both your mental and physical health. If you're worried you might be intolerant, you could contact a professional dietitian or nutritionist. Remember that any changes you make might take time for your body and your mind to get used to. So if you're changing to a new eating pattern, it might take a while for you to start feeling the benefits.
All right. We are reminded by this video to take protein with fats, drink more water. Please drink more water. We need to take vegetables and cut down our caffeine. So caffeine can come from our teas, coffee, and our soft drinks. So please cut down on caffeine. And also we need to eat more fibrous food. The next reason why we should care about the food we eat is because we are all vulnerable to diseases. Whatever food or water we put inside our bodies, if it is not safe, it will bring pathogens causing food and waterborne diseases. And whatever food we intake, food or water or any drinks that we intake, it may cause us obesity as well, or will contribute to our obesity. So let's watch another video. Food poisoning in Pangasinan.
Umabot sa 75 na katao ang sabay-sabay na tinamaan ng food poisoning matapos umanong kumain ng galunggong at tahong sa barangay Inirangan, Bayambang, Pangasinan. April 26 nang dalhin sa ospital ang mga biktima matapos makaramdam ng pananakit ng tiyan at pagkakaroon ng rashes. Agad din umanong pinauwi ang mga pasyente. Ayon sa Municipal Health Office, nabili umano ang galunggong at tahong mula sa isang ambulant vendor sa barangay.
Yung iba, pinaksil nila, yung iba prinito.
Kasi pag nilalagyan yung bilasang fish, you added vinegar, the more na lumalabas yung toxin niya. Kaya yung mga kumain ng prito, it's not that much. Mas grabe.
Iniimbestigahan na ng Municipal Health Office ang insidente kung kontaminado ng red tide toxic ang mga nakaing produkto. Isa sa ilalim sa toxin testing ang mga nakuhang sample.
Nilagay sa laboratory sa Maynila. Pero for us naman, sinomonitor namin na yung mga tao. So far naman okay na sila.
Ayon sa Pangasinan Provincial Health Office, isa ang food poisoning sa binabantayan ng tanggapan ngayong tag-init. Paalala ng Health Authority, mag-ingat sa kinakain upang makaiwas sa pagkalason.
Yung mga pagkain na madaling mapanis, no, kailangan po ito ay tingnan po nila ng maayos yung preparasyon, kailangan ay malinis ang mga kamay na nagpiprepara, pati yung mga utensils na ginagamit. At kailangan po na huwag natin paghaluin yung mga sarsa na madali pong mapanis, no, sa kasagsagan po ng tag-init.
See how vulnerable our bodies are when it comes to diseases. Any food that we intake may cause us sickness or death issues. Let's watch another video or another clip from GMA News.
Makatayo yung pinakabunso naming babae. Hindi na po siya makatayo. Mahirap po siyang makahinga. Ang findings po na is, yun daw po, salmonella bacteria from itog maalat po, food poisoning. Yun po yung nakalagay po sa findings ng doktor dun sa medical certificate po nila.
With the two videos we'd watch, it just simply shows us that all of us are vulnerable with these diseases. Imagine they were just eating this galunggong and they were food poisoned. Another, kumain lang sila ng itlog na maalat and they were affected by salmonella. The reason why we need to ask ourselves right now, are we really careful when it comes to choosing our food? Do we check where this food comes from? So be wise in buying your food. What is the challenge right now? Or let's watch first a video before I issue the challenge coming from the FAO. So what is the challenge? But based on the video, if the food it is not safe, it is not food. Remember that. If the food is not safe, it is not food. The challenge right now among us Filipinos is that food safety and quality starts if we learn to change our choices. Changing our choices will be very difficult, but that is a challenge. We need to change our choices to buy or to choose food that are safe. Not all delicious food are safe and healthy. Always think of your health, your nutrition, and safety. Put a high priority on food safety and quality. Eat nutritious and safe. Live healthy and safe. The reason because, next slide, is bear this in mind. We are recovering from COVID-19. A healthy Filipino is a quality, safe, and productive building block to the Philippine economic recovery. We are all part of this economic recovery, and by being healthy, we take part of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sir Benedict. Truly, it is a very timely and informative presentation. 2 of the 10 commandments. Sana natuto po tayo. We would like to acknowledge the 150 viewers that we have from FB and YouTube. Thank you very much and continue to stay tuned with us. Please remember that the open forum session will be pushed at the end of the second presentation. We will now proceed for our last topic for today. Ma'am Angel?
So, Ma'am Eileen, the last topic is what we can deem a very controversial one. So, some of us may choose one product process under the condition of this topic that we will be hearing today. So,
That's true, ma'am. Yes, that is right. Food fortification. We buy fortified food products occasionally, and one is a necessary staple condiment that we add to our food. Alam niyo po yun, the salt has been a very controversial news lately. And now we can hear firsthand from our speaker the success and failure of food fortification. Ma'am Angel?
yes, Ma'am Eileen, I also agree with what have you said.
That is true. We would like to acknowledge our presenter for today. Our final speaker is a licensed chemist by profession. He is working on process optimization using design experts, chemical analysis, and R&D of nutritional food products at the Food and Nutrition Research Institute of the DOST. So we would like to remind everyone, listen and stay tuned at the end of the presentation. Please also, if you have questions, and we encourage for you to raise questions, put them on the chat box. Thank you. And we would like
Yes, ma'am. We would like to remind everyone, again, ma'am, no, that the certificate for the seminar early this morning will be given as one with today's session. So we will give everyone who attended the seminar one certificate for the whole day. And please continue to stay tuned until the end. So
yes, and remember to register. You will not be given a certificate if you are not registered. It's very interesting, the topic that we have today. Often, we are ignorant of the importance of fortified items and why we must eat them. Right, Miss Angel?
yes, ma'am. So I'm very excited with this last session. You know, we have a lot of learnings from the past few sessions, and now is the time that we can hear more of these fortified foods.
Indeed, we will today will learn not only why it was necessary to be made a law, but the reason of some fortification act being revoked. We often do not understand the difficulty of our body function, especially when it comes to micronutrients. So we need to stay focused kasi just like what Sir Benedict discussed earlier, we need to check what we are eating. 'Di ba Ma'am Angel?
Yes, ma'am. And knowing us, most of the Filipino nowadays are we're suffering from these micronutrient deficiencies, no, Ma'am Eileen. So, aminado po ako, Ma'am Eileen, no, one of the other Filipino people ako na ano, may anemia. So, ikaw, Ma'am Eileen ba?
Nako, I'm guilty with what Sir Benedict said earlier, no? The easiest way to buy food is to click from your phone. We can never get out of our phone. Pag nawala yan, nagpapanik tayo. And even as we order food products, we use yung dalawang pagkain na yon. And right now, we will learn yung importance ng micronutrient deficiency sa ating katawan. Right, Miss Angel?
Yes, Ma'am Eileen. Going back sa kaninang session natin, Ma'am Eileen, mahilig ka din ba, Ma'am, sa street foods?
Yes, ma'am. Pero isang beses ako nakakain ng street food na hindi ko gusto ang lasa and mga 1 year yata na medyo umiiwas ako. I will only buy from street foods from a known establishment which I really trust.
Kaya it's very interesting talaga, yung, lalo na yung mga lessons na narinig natin from Sir Benedict's discussion, di ba, ma'am?
True, ma'am. It's very difficult for us na piliin kung ano ang tama. But gaya ng sabi kanina dun sa mga video na pinakinggan natin, we have to choose variety. Even kasi sa vegetables, namimili tayo, di ba? Namimili tayo ng vegetables na kinakain natin. We only choose what we really want. Ikaw ba, ma'am? Yung kanilang topic, kumakain ka ba ng okra?
Ay, naku, ma'am. Dati hindi ako kumakain ng okra, pero nung narinig ko yung discussion ni Ma'am LD, talagang napatakaw tikim ako sa okra niya. How about you, ma'am?
Ako nakakakain naman. Requirement kasi yan sa bahay kung ano yung nasa pagkainin mo.
Yung kakain.
But alam mo yun, the variety actually helps us to really stay in our toes. So sabi nga ni Sir Benedict, kanina, hindi dapat tayo magpabaya. And right now, we will hear firsthand. Once again, let me introduce our speaker for today. Our final speaker is a licensed chemist by profession working on process optimization using design expert, chemical analysis, and R&D of nutritional food products of the Food and Research Institute of the Department of Science and Technology. Without further ado, please give a virtual round of applause for Ms. Maricar Albao.
Thank you, Ma'am Eileen, for your kind introduction. Good afternoon, attendees, guests, faculty, and to all our Facebook and YouTube users. Thank you for still being with us until the last session. From the previous discussion of Sir Benedict, he emphasized na we should choose wisely the food that we eat. With that, I think it is also appropriate to include fortified food products on your next grocery items because these products are enriched with vitamins and minerals that is actually good for your health. Relevant to that, allow me to share with you the last topic for this session entitled The Success and Failure of Food Fortification Programs. The topic outline includes the following. We will talk about the concept of food fortification as a potential strategy to control micronutrient malnutrition. Next, what is the current regulatory status of fortification in our country? Finally, we will tackle the barriers in the consistent compliance against the full implementation of the program. Before we dive into the main topic, let me highlight the persisting problem and rationale for fortifying food products. According to the World Health Organization, or the WHO, over a quarter of the global population, or more than 2 billion people, suffer from micronutrient deficiency, or also known as hidden hunger. And more than 1 million children under 5 die every year from vitamin A and zinc deficiencies alone. The lack of the micronutrients in the diet results in stunting o ang pagkabansot. It also increases yung risk natin sa different micronutrient-related diseases and impaired development, such as yung mga birth defect, cognitive, and physical deformities. This malnutrition problem restricts not only the growth and development, but also the well-being and children's potential. From this, masasabi natin na ang nutritional status of the population is one of the many factors in determining the quality and productivity of the people, which in turn affect the national productivity. So in the long run, a good nutritional status contributes not only to the social, but also to the economic development of the country. Now, let's look into the micronutrient status in the Philippines. According to the nutritional survey of the DOST FNRI, last 2018 and 2019, 23% of our pregnant and 13.4% of children 6 months to 5 years old suffer from iron deficiency o ang tinatawag nating anemia, while 22.6% of the elderly and 20% of the lactating mothers and pregnant women have an iodine deficiency. Similarly, vitamin A deficiency was still a problem among 15.5% of children 6 months to 5 years old. As you can see, the groups that is more vulnerable rather to these micronutrient deficiencies are the pregnant, lactating mothers, and young children, given their increased demands. With that, what are the current strategies to control the micronutrient malnutrition? First, we have the micronutrient supplementation. It involves the provision of a single micronutrient or a multiple micronutrients in the form of capsule. Maaari rin namang sa form ng tablets, drops, or syrup. The advantage of this supplementation is that a single dose satisfies your daily micronutrient needs. However, this is a short-term solution and costly. Next, meron tayong tinatawag na dietary diversification, wherein we increase the quantity and the range of the micronutrient-rich foods that we consume. Actually, ang pinaka-best way of preventing micronutrient deficiency or malnutrition is to ensure the consumption of a balanced diet that is adequate for every nutrient. Unfortunately, this is a long-term and difficult to achieve since kailangan natin ng universal access to adequate food and appropriate dietary habits. The last strategy is food fortification. According to the Codex definition, it is the addition of one or more essential nutrients for the purpose of gusto nating ma-prevent or ma-correct ang isang demonstrated deficiency of one or more nutrients in that population or maaari namang sa specific population group. Or simply, in a laymanized term para mas maintindihan natin, we simply wanted to boost the nutritional value of the food products. We do understand naman that while being processed, there are actually nutrients that are thermolabile that can be lost because they are treated at a higher temperature. Or perhaps they are put in a certain storage condition that can affect the nutrient stability and of course, ang product quality. In the Philippines, the implementation of the food fortification program is governed by the RA 8976 or the Philippine Food Fortification Act of 2000, an act of establishing the Philippine Food Fortification Program and other purposes. This is carried out to compensate for inadequacies in the Filipino diet. The FPP covers all imported or locally processed food or food products for sale and distribution in our country. Next slide, please. The food fortification program can be categorized as mandatory, meaning they are initiated and regulated by the government. The Department of Health or the DOH through BIFAD set the standards for the mandatory fortification of the following staple food products. So we have rice with iron, refined sugar with vitamin A, wheat flour with vitamin A and iron, and cooking oil with vitamin A. If I may also add, under the ASEAN law, we need to fortify salt with iodine. The manufacturers who fortify processed food or food products with essential nutrients set at the level approved are authorized to use the DOH seal of acceptance. The seal is given for mandatory fortification is what we call the diamond seal. Ang diamond seal will be our guide as consumer in selecting nutritious food products. The next one is the voluntary fortification. per food processor add the nutrients to the foods of their own choice. But remember guys, this is still governed by certain regulatory limits in the IRR. This is actually under the Section 5 of the Voluntary Food Fortification Program o ang mas kilalang tinatawag nating Sangkap Pinoy Seal Program, wherein the department encourages the fortification of all processed food or food products based on the IRR. To cite a few, meron tayong mga fruit juices with zinc, snack foods with iron, and the seal for voluntary fortification is called the rectangular seal. So now, knowing this, what are the requirements in food fortification that must be met to ensure the effectiveness of the program or the technologies rather? First, the food vehicle should be consumed in sufficient quantities. The level shall supply at least 1/3 of your recommended dietary allowance or the RDA of the target population. Also, it must be stable and produced year-round rather. It must be consumed to make a significant contribution to the diet of the target population. Second, the nutrients must be balanced, stable, and bioavailable. First, should not create an imbalance of essential nutrients. This is actually important when you're doing double, triple, or multiple fortification in which magkakaroon ng interaction among the added nutrients. On the other hand, pag sinabi naman nating bioavailable, meaning it is fully absorbed by the body after digestion and it becomes available for its intended biological function. From a technical standpoint kasi, we wanted to determine the nutrient stability, the bioavailability during formulation, preparation, and processing to know if ang fortified products ba natin ay effective or yung fortification process ba natin ay effective. Kailangan natin ng masusing pag-aaral kung paano siya iproproseso. Ano bang nararapat na packaging level? Packaging ang kailangan, anong level ng fortificant, ilan ang requirements ng target population natin, and such. And all of this factor could affect yung nutrient retention and the bioavailability of the fortificant. At the same time, gusto kasi nating makagawa ng strategies for minimizing the losses caused by the processing and nutrient instability. Normally, when we formulate kasi, we take into consideration yung tinatawag nating overages. Ito yung to calculate the amount of added nutrient so that the anticipated level of the nutrient at the end of the product shelf life is in accordance with the level indicated on the on your label. So normally when you're doing iron fortification, mga 10% ang overages natin dyan just to compensate for the losses. Other factors that should be considered carefully in designing food fortification programs are the price, safety, and consumer acceptability. The pricing of fortified food should be affordable for the target population. Kasi remember guys that normally micronutrient deficiencies are common in low-income families. When we say naman na completely safe siya, the level of the fortificant must be within the safe levels indicated on the IRR. And furthermore, it should not impart yung mga undesirable changes when it comes to the sensory and the physicochemical properties that affect the consumer acceptance. Lastly, the quality assurance and control of the fortified food can be more easily implemented if ang fortification program natin is centralized and it involves mass production. Overall, hindi lamang ito, the effectiveness of our food fortification programs depends on whether or not our fortified food is na-accept ba siya, na-purchase ba siya, and na-consume ba siya by the target population. So having known a brief background on the fortification, mag-fact check naman tayo, ano nga ba yung mga current status of the food fortification program sa Pilipinas? Based ito sa FDA monitoring. So all local flour millers are fortifying with vitamin A and iron. However, we must admit, there is still unfortified flour proliferating in the market, maaaring sa cost-cutting of other businesses. On the other hand, meron tayong 90% of cooking oils ang fortified. Take note guys, that ang samples included in the sampling are those labeled and packed, while yung mga tinatawag ba nating tackle and tingin system were not part of the monitoring. In terms of the sugar fortification, the sugar manufacturers are not following the mandatory fortification of refined sugar with vitamin A. Bakit kamo? Because of the unresolved issue of who will bear the cost of the fortification. In terms naman sa rice fortification natin, only the National Food Authority or the NFA is fortifying rice with iron for about 50% of its rice. The problem here kasi is we have limited commercial and private sectors of iron rice premix and iron fortified rice production, and of course mga distribution facilities. If I may add lang sa mga literature na nakalap ko and bilang nasa food fortification ako, another contributory factor is yung low consumer demand for fortified rice. Maybe we are lacking in the marketing of the health benefits of the fortified rice and fortified foods in general. For the salt fortification naman, under the Republic Act 8172 or the Act for Salt Iodization Nationwide o ang kilalang ASIN Law, it is signed into law to address yung mga iodine deficiency in the country, which is also indicated dun sa law na yon that imported salt must be fortified if this will be used for food application. So currently, the Philippines imports more than 93% of our salt needs coming from Australia, we have China, we have Thailand and New Zealand. Our problem kasi with iodine fortification is the compliance of our salt manufacturers on the iodine level. Since not all hindi ganun ang kanilang facility to iodize it. It is also important to know na may mga salt farmers na nagbebenta pa rin ng mga under fortified salt in the market. But the good thing naman here is about 81% of the household included in the nutritional survey conducted by the DOST FNRI was found to be positive for iodine using a rapid test kit. So to elaborate more, baka nagtatanong pa kayo, ano nga ba yung mga problems encountered in fortification of refined sugar? There are actually petitions to amend the RA 8976 made by former Senator Angara and Senator Binay. So the following constraint identified are: first, yung unwillingness of the owners to sign the authorization letter. Bakit ganito? Remember that the sugar refineries are not the owners of the raw sugar, which will be processed into refined sugar. Since ang fortification is an act of ownership, refineries cannot fortify refined sugar, syempre without the conformity of their owners, who are also not willing to sign authorization letter. Next, the target population who needs the vitamin A fortification program belongs to the DNE bracket economy, and they prefer, sadly, no, but we do understand, to buy brown sugar over refined sugar. This is because, another na naman, cost consideration na naman yung limitation natin. Lastly, the fortification of refined sugar is not marketable. This is because, remember, ang industrial user natin, such as Coca-Cola, the Pepsi, Nestle, and San Miguel, which account for 80% of the market for refined sugar, they do not want to fortify refined sugar as it will affect yung formulation and of course yung consumer acceptability ng kanilang produkto. Now let's go into the voluntary fortification. In terms of the compliance, we have 139 processed food products that have Sangkap Pinoy seal, in which meron tayong 83% are fortified with vitamin A, and 29% with iron, and 14% with iodine. And 37% of this are snack foods. This slide kasi pinapakita niya yung bigger picture of the market-driven fortification, their effort to provide healthier snack options. But be mindful, guys, that this nutrient claim on fortified snack, of course, it might influence you, the consumer, na makagawa tayo ng mga poor diet related decision. Baka kasi, ay, fortified to, yun na lang, yun at yun na lang. Dapat, guys, you should always follow ang pinggang Pinoy and eat a variety of foods. Now, seeing the current fortification status, and it has been, 12 years since the approval of the food fortification law and 17 years for the ASIN law, pero mapapansin natin, ang enforcement niya, it remains weak. So what do you think are the barriers for the consistent compliance against the program? With that, allow me to share with you the findings of the study of Dutringel et al. 2005. In the study, the authors have identified ano yung barriers, ano yung mga good practices, and the total of 17 countries were represented by different responses coming from the regulatory and industry, from Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Ethiopia, Ghana, Indonesia, Kenya, Nigeria, the Philippines, of course, Nepal, and such more. The results show that based on the quality assurance data from that mentioned countries, 45% of the samples are adequately fortified. So meaning more than 50%. So to be exact, that is 55% are under fortified. So to identify ano ba yung kailangan natin ng improvement, bakit merong mga under fortified pa din? So the industry respondents, they were asked to prioritize ano yung list ng barriers in ensuring that adequate fortification, which is shown as in figure 1 in your screen. So the two barriers that dominated the least perceived by the food industry are, una, yung high price natin, high price ng premix. So ito yung powdery blend of the vitamins and minerals used in the fortification. The next, ang pag-inisip kasi natin, no, yung may I just elaborate on the price of the premix, which I think napaka-importante. Yung price kasi ng premix, kung tutuusin natin, hindi naman talaga siya costly eh. The factor attributed to the increase is due to the cost of the logistics. Since ang fortificants nga, kung papansinin nyo, they are mostly imported rather. I think it would have been a lot better if we have direct manufacturers in the Philippines to reduce the production cost. Next in rank is the competition with non-fortifying or yung mga non-compliant producer natin, which are patronized by other businesses due to a price concern nga. Moreover, this also illustrates ano nga ba yung need natin for enforcement. Kailangan ata i-level natin yung playing field for those naman na nagko-comply. Other barriers included, let me just itemize, no, yung poor regulatory capacity, which ranked third and scored 35%. The lack of the regulatory clarity, fortification, equipment, product market demand have similar rankings, whereas the technical capacity to fortify was the least perceived barrier. Based on the perceived barriers of importance, pwede natin siyang makategorize into 3 main themes. So meron tayo diyang food law and legislative environment, mechanism of regulation, enforcement, and human and financial resources. So let's go into the under the food law and legislative requirement. We know naman na yung poor performance, nagpe-persist naman talaga yun kahit sa anong aspeto ng implementation ng kahit anong programa. Most notably in terms of this, no, around the critical area talaga, yung regulatory monitoring, which is essential siya to ensure yung compliance. This poor regulatory monitoring kasi, no, does not sufficiently identify yung mga producers natin. We don't hold them accountable for the under fortified products. If I may add din, no, may mga documents kasi that they outline mga key elements for successful fortification. Sinasabi nila, mag-focus ka sa technical, mag-focus ka sa infra, sa socio constraint that nakaka-apekto sa supply and demand. But they do not focus on what is needed for effective regulatory monitoring. So, ang regulatory monitoring, makikita natin siya at the government level. So, ano yung mga critical challenges along that food value chain? So una, we have low priority and capacity for enforcement. This low enforcement and compliance results largely from a lack of resources or yung unwillingness natin to detect under fortified or unfortified foods and mahold natin yung accountable industry. Next, meron tayong minimal harmonization of standards. We must admit, no, that we are lacking in terms of establishing mga stricter measures in terms of fortification, nutrient references, and yung mga processing techniques. 3, we have limited funding. Kahit sa naman, alam natin na ang funding is a critical element of food control management and governance. Ito yung nagpo-provide sa atin ng resources necessary for our action in sense of government prioritization. Pang-apat, yung poor laboratory capacity, yung lack of equipment kasi natin, at saka yung proficiency ng mga chemists for laboratory analysis. Normally, ini-slow down talaga nito yung testing process and prohibited yung mga inspector naman natin from making a cost-efficient judgments on the under fortified or unfortified products. Another finding of the study na I'd like to share is the list of the regulatory monitoring elements that needs improvement at the regulatory agency level para ma-ensure naman natin yung compliance. It is shown in figure 2. Yung results showed that both yung regulatory agency and the industry, they place a high importance na ma-improve natin yung regulation. So dapat klaro, we should provide ano nga ba yung regulatory environment, including ano yung roles mo, ano yung responsibility mo as a stakeholders. However, no, kung papansinin natin yung graph, surprisingly, the regulatory agency and the industry, they inversely prioritize the remaining elements. The industry respondents, they rated yung mga incentives, penalties for enforcement, communication between sectors, and industry engagement as their highest priorities. Whereas yung components naman na nabanggit ko were among the lowest priorities for regulatory agency. From this, ang masasabi talaga natin, we can conclude that there is a need to improve yung clarity of regulation, yung enforcement, and food industry engagement para magkaroon sila ng common ground for prioritization. Thus, we can establish a more industry-friendly regulation. So another issue that concerns that, speaking of the regulatory, is the enforcement of the legislation on the small-scale producers, which tackle yung pangalawa nating category, yun yung mechanism of regulation and enforcement. The problem kasi is normally caused by having a high number of yung mga small-scale oil and salt producer natin. And ang problem din is yung absence ng operational monitoring system natin. And also, if I may share, yung smuggling of unfortified cooking oil and wheat flour, it threatens the program and nagkakaroon din tayo ng disadvantage for the compliant food manufacturers. The area of improvement in that segment, I think, is to increase natin yung capacity ng mga regulatory agencies to do monitoring so we can hold the person involved accountable. And lastly, the category is under the human and financial resources. Although na-mention nga natin na cost-effective ang pagpo-fortify than other strategies, there are nevertheless mga significant costs associated when you fortify a product, which limit the implementation and the effectiveness of the program. This typically includes yung startup costs, yung mga expenses of conducting trials for micronutrient level, yung mga recurrent costs involved in creating and maintaining the demand for these products. The critical challenges along that food value chain that present barriers to consistent compliance, I think, when it comes to industry level, are yung poor quality or unsafe inputs. Pangalawa, poor processing procedure and yung expertise ba, depending on the degree of processing kasi, many nutrients can be destroyed or removed. Thus, importante talaga na ang knowledge of processing ay ma-establish natin. Pangatlo, improper packaging and handling. Factors that can typically affect yung micronutrient stability include yung mga uncontrolled condition natin during storage and transport. Pang-5, forceful under fortification. Evidence of under fortification confirms na yung ini-slow ba nito yung progress in improving yung compliance natin against the fortification standard. Remember po that ensuring adequate fortification is necessary to improve micronutrient consumption. I would like to go further on the highlighted challenges, which I believe can be further discussed in terms of the critical aspect of food fortification. This includes both the effect of poor processing procedure on the bioavailability and the nutrient retention. Again, when we say bioavailability, it is the amount absorbed and used by your body, whereas yung retention naman refers to the amount of the fortificant present after processing and storage as well. Despite po yung mga given content ng mga nakikita natin sa label na nutrient claims in food, the amount that is finally acquired by the human body depends on a set of variables that come into play during the storage, the preparation of the food, the digestion, the absorption. Yung factors affecting the bioavailability or una, yung efficiency of digestion. An example of this is the ferric pyrophosphate or yung mga elemental iron powders natin, which are insoluble in water and they are poorly soluble in the gastric juice and thereby less bioavailable sila. But remember, ang particle size reduction would result into a more bioavailable candidate. In order also to be absorbed, the iron metal must be always present. Hindi naman lagi, pero we use mga ferric, pero must be present in the ferrous form. Another one is the interaction with other food consumed. Example nito yung mga phytates natin. When the combined kasi with other nutrients, nag-render siya na maging insoluble. So meaning, lesser ang nagiging absorption niya. Ang sa pag-aaral namin, no, ang iron absorption, normally nag-a-add kami ng mga reducing agent. Ano ba yung pwede doon? Ascorbic acid. Yung ascorbic acid, pinapacilitate niya kasi yung conversion of your ferric to ferrous iron. So I remember, ang sabi ko nga, mas favorable pag ferrous iron ang ginamit mong fortificant. And the last one is the method of food preparation. Maaaring thermal processing. Pwede mo ba siyang prinoseso ng mechanical, soaking, fermentation, germination, malting. Kailangan mapili natin yung appropriate processing or strategies in order for us to increase yung mga physicochemical accessibility niya ng micronutrients. So, at maaari ring ma-decrease natin yung content of the anti-micronutrients such as yung na-mention ko nga yung phytate. Or pwede rin naman natin i-increase yung mga content of compounds that na makakapag-improve rather dun sa bioavailability. Also, under the lack of awareness on the fortificant use, the factor to be considered is yung potential nutrient interaction. Ito yung tinatawag nating synergistic and antagonistic effect ng nutrients natin between dun sa added micronutrient at saka dun sa food vehicle na ginamit natin. So the interaction might interfere with our metabolic utilization of fortificants. So we need to assess and check this before we conduct the implementation. Our goal kasi is to minimize sana yung degradation ng nutritional value ng fortificant na inad natin as much as possible. Example of this study is yung conducted to assess yung dietary phytate intake and inhibitory effect ng bioavailability of calcium, iron, and zinc in the diets of the pregnant women in the rural Bangladesh. So it was found out po na yung group with the highest phytate intake compared to the groups na lesser had a significant molar ratio of multi-nutrients monitored wherein yung phytate inhibited, wherein yung phytate na inhibit niya yung bioavailability ng calcium and iron from the diet of all the pregnant women sampled. With that regard po, I believe that we must strengthen the knowledge about the quantitative impact of interaction among the nutrients that are added. Okay po. Next slide. Another aspect under the awareness of fortificant use is the possible effect of fortification on the sensory characteristic of the product. We all know naman that conducting sensory evaluation, it characterizes the organoleptic properties, yung epekto ng processing, yung formulation on the consumer acceptability of fortified food product. Sabi nga po ng supervising head namin na aanhin mo ang produktong na-retain ang nutrient level pero hindi naman siya acceptable on a market level. So kailangan importante ang ibinibigay nating importance when it comes to sensory evaluation. Yung fortificants po natin, importante, it must not cause yung mga unacceptable sensory problems, whether naka-apekto ba siya sa kulay, sa flavor, sa odor, or dun sa texture. At dapat yung level of intended fortification natin must be stable and acceptable within the given limits. So kung tatanungin niyo po ako, Ma'am Par, meron bang mga sensory published journal, anong nakita nilang findings doon? Yes, merong perceptible changes, pero the good thing is yung acceptability niya naman mataas. May iba rin naman na nagsabi na no significant changes. May mga article din na nagsasabi na may effect siya doon sa color. Maaaring hindi kasi talaga na establish or na R&D kung anong level ng fortificant ang i-add natin. Take note that if ang additional packaging ay kinakailangan natin para ma-improve yung stability ng added fortificant, it is helpful if this does not add mga significantly cost dun sa ating product and make it more unaffordable to the consumer. Under the human and financial resources as well, it is evident that there is a need na ma-increase natin yung role ba ng civil society through consumer awareness. Yung civil society kasi can be a powerful watchdog by improving consumer awareness of the food producers that are under fortified, as well as ini-increase natin yung consumer knowledge in fortified food products. The critical challenges along that food value chain on the consumer and retail levels, ang masasabi ko is yung limited means to test yung per product quality. Pangalawa, uncertainty if the labeling corresponds to the content. Mostly kasi ang fortified foods, masasabi natin siyang credence goods siya. So yung those consumers, hindi natin ma-identify or ma-evaluate agad-agad na tama ba yung label niya. So kailangan na lang natin i-take as belief siya na kung ano yung naka-reflect na label, yun yung nakalagay. So pag pinansin kasi natin ang fortified at non-fortified products are virtually identical. Hindi mo man malalaman without the use of some form of analytical equipment. Then by that, malalaman mo, yung isa pala yung isa pala adequately fortified. So last one, yung law of consumer demand for fortified foods. For some credence goods kasi, including yung fortified foods nga natin, yung product demand talaga dyan depends largely sa branding and marketing rather nung product. So kailangan ma-identify to provide yung consumer ng recognizable way ba para ma-distinguish niya na fortified and unfortified to. So thus, I also believe yung promotion natin, yung consumption ng fortified food and ma-recognize ba natin yung mga compliant manufacturers, meron pa rin tayong dapat i-improve. So finally, although not included in the findings of the study, we could not agree more that food fortification and any program for that matter must have intersectoral and multi-sectoral approaches. In the Philippines po, the DOST FNRI is part of the technical working group para sa mandatory fortification. So importante na regular yung communication from all various parties involved running in the fortification program, not just the consumer. So dapat solid yung collaborative approach natin, which can span from various ministries, pwedeng government agency, the non-governmental organization, yung mga stakeholders, other groups, para po yung common goal natin, ma-achieve natin addressing that particular issue, which is the micronutrient malnutrition. With that po, I personally myself acknowledge that ownership and coordination within the Department of Health and among other government agencies is a well-recognized problem. So I think po by building a positive relationship with the involvement of more partners, there is a greater credibility and broader base of support so we can fully see the effect and full compliance in the program. With that po, I would like to share with you some of the technologies developed by the DOST FNRI that you might have seen in the market. All the few of these po are produced as orders for feeding program, DepEd, and other DSWD projects. To name a few po, we have iron fortified rice. We have MNEC for pregnant and lactating mothers. Next po, we have MGM for pregnant and lactating mothers, MGM for 5 to 6 years old, if I'm not mistaken. Next po. MGM for 1 to 3 years old. Next po. And we have the beverage, ang tubig talino po natin, iodine fortified beverage. We have juices with vitamin A and C, and yung snackers po natin na iron and zinc fortified, which is ang well-known po ng FNRI, ang rice mongo pearls or RIMO, which are the technology was already transferred from Nutridents Corporation, Negrense, and such, to name a few. Then meron din po tayong protein food bar. So next po. So I leave you with my key takeaway that proper enforcement, yung adequate investment natin sa pag-upgrade ng technical skills, and yung facilities po ba natin following a proper certification process, and of course the support of the various sectors and new consumers are needed to ensure continuous and effective implementation of the program. So I hope po that we are not alone in these endeavors. I ask all of you to join hand in these fights against micronutrient malnutrition. And with that po, I hope you choose wisely and be informed. Yes, but thank you. And here are my references, and that ends my presentation. Again, thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Maricar, for that wonderful presentation. No? We see now that food fortification is necessary to aid the nutritional requirements, especially of those that are vulnerable in population, and the depth of necessary preparation to improve this micronutrient consumption. So currently, partner, Ma'am Eileen, we have in YouTube Live and FB Live a 175 viewers. So we will now proceed in our Q&A, and if you for the viewers, for the listeners, if you have any questions and queries regarding the topic that Miss Albao and Mr. Corpus have discussed a while ago, you may raise them on the chat box or raise your hands virtually. So there is one question here, ma'am, that is addressed to Mr. Corpus. So according to Miss Vista Berlindi, what are the innovative ways to ensure safe and hygienic street food in developing countries? And also, what are the impacts of COVID-19 on food safety and security? Mr. Corpus?
All right. Thank you, Ma'am Angelica. Let me read the question again. What are the innovative ways to ensure safe and hygienic street food in developing countries? When we say innovative, we mostly talk about technology. However, we can do rapid testings on inspections. The problem is with developing countries, we have this issue on lack of funds. So kung sa basic pa lang may problema na tayo in terms of checking the sanitation ng ating mga street food vendors, baka naman need natin muna mag-start with awareness. By awareness, I believe we can do a lot of innovative ways. We can use, since sabi ng karamihan, this generation is a TikTok generation, why not use TikTok to conduct awareness on safe and hygienic street food processing? But kung gugustuhin ng gobyerno o gugustuhin ng mga sanitary inspectors, we can use rapid testings para madaling ilabas kung may problema ba o wala yung products na pinoproduce ng ating mga street vendors. Another issue is kahit naman kasi magbigay ka ng innovative ways to ensure our street food are safe, no? If tulad ng binanggit ko kanina, we have low support. Particularly, our sanitary inspectors are, yung nagamit ko example kanina, sa Tanay Rizal is 1:100,000. So, has no use. We need to start from the basic first. Create an awareness among people, then enforce. We need to create yung due diligence na itong mga vendors na ito will think of food safety. Safety ng kumakain, and bago tayo mag-propose ng mga innovative ways. Madali naman kasi natin gawin yon if and only if the basics are already set upon. With the question ng COVID, ano daw yung, or what are the impacts of COVID-19 on food safety and security? Well, it has big impacts. Why? In terms of food safety, medyo malaki. Why? During the pandemic, dumami ang food delivery. But yung food delivered ba natin, yung mga lalagyan ba ng ating mga motorcycle delivery people ay maayos? Malinis ba? Are food maintained on the right temperature habang dinideliver? There was also an increase of household na production ng ating mga food na nilalako. So, how do we ensure that the food that they are selling are safe? So, I cannot give you the stats kung may naging issue whatsoever, but meron tayong higher risk on food safety because walang standard eh. The normal thing na gagawin is cook, sell. Buy sa fast food, take it kukunin ng delivery drivers, then deliver it to the people. So if we have set standards, might as well na yung risk natin for the risk for food safety will become lower. So anong effect ng COVID-19 sa food safety? Nagtaas po yung risk natin in terms of food safety. Mas prone tayo na magkaroon ng food safety issue. In terms of food security, although hindi na po talaga sakop ito ng aking topic, but I believe in terms of food security, meron din tayong issue. Kasi hindi nga nakakagalaw ang mga tao, hindi nakaka-travel ang mga tao. So yung availability ng materials mihina or nagiging scarce dahil walang travel, walang transfer of raw mats or kung anong ginagamit nila sa pagpo-produce. So kakaroon tayo ng issue when it comes to food security.
Thank you for that enlightening answer, Mr. Corpus. Partner, how about kay Miss Maricar? Do you have questions under her discussion?
Yes, I do have one question for her. Ma'am, we know as you discussed how important it is and the reason why they chose to fortify our salts. But the dying industry, is it a cause or effect of the fortification law? And in your opinion, should it be continued po? Can you please answer, ma'am? Thank you very much.
Thank you po, Ms. Francisco, for the question. No? Whether it is a cause and effect, I believe po na lahat naman may cause and effect. Dahil nga po ito ay endeavor natin, there are positive and negative effects. So I think ang naging problem kasi, if I'm not mistaken, with the salt iodization is that yung mga small farmers po, hindi ganun yung facilities nila at yung mga equipment na kinakailangan, hindi nila na-meet yung required level when it comes to iodine, kung ano yung kinakailangan. Though kung mapapansin nyo po, kung babasahin nyo yung RA 8976, ang nagpo-provide naman tayo ng mga soft loans and hindi naman pinababayaan yung mga salt manufacturers. Sa question nyo naman po with regards to kung kailangan ba tanggalin yung asin law, nakita naman po natin na ang malaking problema yung kakaharapin natin kung tatanggalin natin yung pagpo-fortify ng salt, which is ano nga ba yung mga epekto ng iodine, katulad po ng iodine deficiency rather, katulad na po ng goiter. So i-weigh na lang po natin kung anong mas matimbang. I think with that, mas importante ang health over dun sa number of industry na maapektuhan natin. Pero naman po dun sa mga industry, I think kailangan lang talaga ng support. Sabi ko nga po, balance dapat i-level natin na kailangan masuportahan natin ang lahat ng industry at magkaroon ng intersectoral approach when it comes to fortification para po ma-implement natin siya properly, and yung goal natin, mahit talaga natin na okay, nabawasan ko yung micronutrient deficiency. Kasi alam naman po natin yung mga ganitong issue when it comes to nutritional status, no, nakaka-apekto talaga siya sa ating ekonomiya. And for that, I believe po na dapat i-pursue pa din, at tayo as consumer, this is my na rin po takeaway sa mga nanonood sa atin, no. Sana piliin po natin yung mga fortified food products, but also remember po na hindi po lang puro yun at yun na lang, dapat wide variety pa rin, i-follow natin ang Pinggang Pinoy. So with that po, thank you po sa question. I hope I answer po yung question. Thank you po.
It's very clear, ma'am. Thank you very much. For those other questions, we will answer them by emailing each person who raised the questions po. For now, we will proceed with the awarding of certificates. Ma'am Angel?
Right now, we will be acknowledging the webinar presenters through awarding of certificates to be given by the Dr. Menchita Dumlao. She is the chairperson of Research Ethics Review Board and a head of Technology Integration Team. She is also a Learning Management System Administrator and a Program Chair of Information Technology.
With that, allow me the privilege to read the contents of the certificates. The Philippine Women's University and the School of Food Science and Technology hereby awards the Certificate of Appreciation as resource speaker during the webinar series on food safety and quality, way forward to economic recovery, given this 21st day of October 2022 at the Philippine Women's University, Manila, Philippines. Duly signed by Dean Dr. Maria Ligaya Braganza, Doctor of Education, Philippine Women's University Program Chair of the School of Food Science and Technology. Dr. Dumlao, please proceed with the awarding, ma'am.
Good afternoon to everyone, and it is my privilege to award
the certificate as cited by Ma'am Eileen Francisco. Okay, for our first presenter for today, Ms. Carmen Policarpio, Angelica Pangan. You can clap or virtual clap. LD May Barrientos, Benedict Paul B. Corpus, and Ms. Maricar Albao. Congratulations to everyone for a job well done.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dumlao. Marami pong salamat. To conclude this two-day webinar, we would like to call our Dean from the School of Food Science and Technology, Dr. Ligaya Berganza, for the closing remarks. Dean?
I'm sorry, I don't have the background of PWU. Anyway, can I just turn off my camera?
Sure, ma'am.
Okay. A pleasant afternoon to all. It has been 2 days of very informative and fruitful webinar for all of us. The theme was well thought of as it mirrors the current trends in the selected topics were good choices. These topics mirrors the current state of condition that we have now. The resource persons or speakers are really prepared. Their presentations well delivered. Okay, the moderators were likewise equally good and prepared. Okay. Congratulations to all the committees and of course to the two dynamic professors, our faculty members, Ms. Debbie Alcasabas and Ms. Lynn Lorilla, who orchestrated this very fruitful and timely webinar. Congratulations likewise to the stars of the show, of course, our resource persons, our very own students in the Master in Food Safety Management and Master of Science in Food Science programs. Kudos to all of you. And of course, kayo rin yung committee members. kayo rin. So, congrats as well. Okay? Why did we choose this theme and these topics? We all know for a fact that the pandemic had serious negative effects in our economy. It had impacts on the whole supply chain. Okay, negative impacts on that. Some are severe. Okay, it had impacts on the whole supply chain, starting from the field up to the consumers, or what we always say as from farm to fork. Okay, in the light of these seemingly insurmountable challenges, there is now considerable concern about our food production, processing, distribution, and demand. It is therefore now more than ever imperative to consider the flow of safe and quality supply in our agriculture, food, and health sectors, the most important and vulnerable sectors of our economy. These are all vital to prevent the impending food crisis and reduce and cushion the negative impacts in our economy. We at the School of Food Science and Technology, in our own way, responded to this challenge through the conduct of this very fruitful seminar. Okay? The objective of this seminar or webinar was to impart substantial knowledge, increase the awareness, and update the populace on the various government initiatives implemented, laws and regulations enacted, and other endeavors and plans that we are all trying to do to gradually transition to the new normal and gearing up to economic recovery. This webinar emphasized the importance of food safety, food quality, health and nutrition as important factors towards gaining economic recovery. Okay. Next. We are now experiencing a period of improved business activity, accepting, adapting, and adjusting the new and not so new conditions, policies, laws, programs of our government and various private and government entities. These are all aptly discussed by our resource persons. We were fitted with updated information, we gained additional and significant knowledge, and are now more aware not only on the roles and responsibilities of the various government sectors, particularly the DA, the Department of Health, and of course the local government units. Okay, we came to know about their roles and responsibilities, as well as our individual roles as stakeholders of this country. We also were able to learn about emerging issues and trends in food science. We now know that okra is a wonder food. I was amazed at that okra. I never knew that one. Okay. We know the perils and pitfalls of food sanitation and safety, as very well discussed by Benedict. Okay. We also know all other things, but one of the more important one is how are we as part of this stakeholder? We have to really do our own part, even in our own little way, to help in the boosting up of our economic recovery. Okay, so let me formally end this webinar by thanking all those who made this event a resounding success. To all the attendees as well and their viewers in our FB and YouTube channel, a big thank you for your participation. See you all again in our future webinars and seminars. God bless everyone. Keep safe and healthy. Thank you to all. Okay, congratulations again. Very well designed, well organized webinar. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Dumlao, for gracing our event.
Congratulations, ma'am, and congratulations to all the students who organized this webinar. Well done, everybody.
We're done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next year ulit, Doc Menchi.
Thank you, Dr. Dumlao, and thank you, Dean Braganza. Thank you, Dean Braganza, for those inspiring words. So,
Yes, indeed. And with that, we would like to acknowledge several of the contributors of this webinar. The completion of this webinar could not have been possible without the participation and assistance of the following individual whose support has made this work possible. Their contribution is sincerely appreciated and acknowledged. However, the group would like to express their deep appreciation and indebtedness, particularly to the following. The Philippine Women's University, our beloved institution, for the effective and quality education they are providing. To Dr. Ligaya S. Berganza, the Dean of the School of Food Science and Technology, for the continued support during our discussion, for providing recommendations and allowing us to learn from our experience through this. Through this, we believe that we have been able to create successful and informative webinar topics. To Professor Rosalinda R. Lorilla, who served as an excellent role model and advisor in the preparation of this webinar. Her valuable suggestions and sound inputs enabled the group to reach its potential. To Professor Maria Divina D. Alcazabas, who has been a great motivator and advisor for extending her constructive ideas and full support in the technical part, which contributed to so much for the success of this webinar. The Philippine Women's University and ICT team, the Philippine Women's University Multimedia and ICT team for providing technical assistance during the preparation and the conduct of the 2-day webinar. and also for making our live stream possible. Thank you. And the marketing team for providing technical assistance in the creation of our promotional materials. The committees and their full support, untiring effort, and brilliant ideas to the preparation of the conduct of this webinar, who helped each other in finalizing this work regardless of their personal schedules. Above all, the Almighty God for His continuous blessing and guidance, for giving us the strength to finish the humble work.
And especially, we would like to acknowledge our beloved guests today from different sectors and you as a part of the food chain. Thank you. And we hope you've enjoyed and learned from today's seminar just like us. Please do not forget to evaluate us for further improvement of the webinars.
Indeed, you will be given 1.5 hours or until 5:30 in the afternoon to finish the evaluation. Please give us 5 to 7 days or a week's time to send your certificates in your email.
Reminding everyone, failure to submit within the allowable time means no issuance of the certificate. And kaya don't forget to evaluate us. So for everyone who made this seminar possible, again, on behalf of the committee, you have our thanks. Thank you, everyone, and God bless.
Wala ba kayong photoshoot? Present ba kayo lahat?
Yes, ma'am.
Nasaan si Miss Debbie saka si Miss Lynn? Nagkaklase?
Wala pa po yata silang both, ma'am. Pero we can include that po later, after po. Thank you po.
Ano kayo para sa documentation natin, ha?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Congrats on excellent job. Well done.
Thank you po. Thank you.
Anong grade? Uno? Wala sila Debbie.
Thank you very much po.
Nagkaklase ba kayo, Lynn?
Ma'am?
202. Nagbigay kami exam face-to-face.
Tapos na kayo. Sabi ko mag-photoshoot sila.
Oo nga.
Wala, pakasama kayo.
Now end our seminar for today. The session will end as we sing the PWU hymn. Thank you for joining this two-day webinar. Food safety and quality, way forward for economic recovery. Thank you very much, and God bless us all.